Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Culture Report. My name is Antonia Velez and this week we're focusing on a wide variety of things, ranging from some of the president's most recent moves and their impact, honoring Black History Month and those who make our community special, and of course, the 2025 Grammy Awards. Let's start with some of the latest on immigration. There is confusion and fear among immigrant communities across the Denver metro area and across the country after ICE raids in multiple major cities. Here in Colorado, the raid started early Wednesday morning. Federal officers went to at least 7 locations, including apartment complexes in a mobile home community in Aurora, Denver, Thornton, and Arapahoe County. ICE said the plan was to target more than 100 members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, but 9 news crews at the scenes of the raids did not see anywhere near that number of arrests. As of this afternoon, the agency pointed to one arrest of a suspected TDA member wanted for a crime committed in another country. ICE said these were targeted raids, but witnesses in some locations told a different story, that agents went door to door asking people to present IDs. This comes after major raids in both Chicago and New York more than a week ago, as the Trump administration begins an immigration crackdown, one of Trump's signature campaign promises. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been instructed to make 1,200 to 1,500 arrests per day, and the Trump administration said it's planning to conduct raids in 3 cities per week. Now, behind quantifiable facts is something just as important that is often buried when we report on issues like this one: the impact it has on the community. I had a conversation with Marlene Bedoya, a representative for Denver's Justice and Mercy Legal Aid Center, about what the migrant community is hearing, saying, and feeling right now. Marlene, thank you so much for joining us today. To start, could you describe a little bit of where you work and what your workplace offers the migrant community?
Sure. My name is Marlene Bedoya, and I do communications. I'm the director of communications for the Justice and Mercy Legal Aid Center. We are a nonprofit organization who our mission is to seek justice for those who struggle with poverty and oppression, including victims of domestic violence, victims of crime, and among all these people, we serve a lot of immigrants. So yes, all of our services are free for the community, and I'm so happy that you guys invite me today.
Of course, thank you so much for joining us. And speaking on the migrant community specifically, we're seeing a lot of changes kind of in the realm of immigration, a lot of federal enforcement actions. Has there been a shift that you've noticed in what your migrant clients are needing or asking for? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, we know that this is not the best time for the immigrant community, no, in general. Not only for those who don't have documents, but also for those who are citizens and they've been profiled and they have been discriminated for this rhetoric that is currently in our country. So yes, our services, of course, focuses on primarily people who request DACA, who request U visas, VAWAs, women who are being victims of crime. But now with all this, obviously we see a lot of changes, and we see people requesting more services in regards of detention specifically. So
yeah,
our organization our focus is not detention, but of course we are here to help, and we are here to also provide information about other organizations who are doing a great job in our community.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. And you mentioned rhetoric. Can you speak to what were you referring to? And feel free to answer in Spanish if you'd like, whatever you feel is best.
Okay. Well, yeah, it is complicated because this morning I was remembering, like when your mother or when someone in your family tells you something repeatedly at home, you start to believe in that. Mm-hmm. So when leaders in our country start talking about how all immigrants are criminals, then the danger of that is that most of us start believing in that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, and that's the dangers of this rhetoric, that it feels very personal to people who are being contributed to this country for so much, who pay taxes, living here for decades. Yeah. My husband is in the military for 20 years, and that rhetoric it's painful. It's painful for our family, you know? We've been given a lot for this country. And now this rhetoric that we all immigrants, regardless of if you are documented or not, if you're citizen or not, it is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because it feels discrimination, it feels profiling people. If you speak Spanish, then you think that I'm a criminal suddenly, and it's not. So it is a rhetoric that it will cause a lot of damage in our country. Right. Not right now, not only right now, but in the long term.
Yeah, I think speaking about the impact and the feelings that all of this is causing goes hand in hand with the most recent raids that Denver saw. Starting yesterday, there was a discrepancy in what federal agencies were communicating that the targets were. They were saying that these were targeted organizations, that they were looking for specifically violent criminals or members of a gang. But in fact, some of the reporters who were on the scene yesterday did not see that. They didn't even see people being detained by the numbers that were being communicated by these agencies. And some of the witnesses that we spoke to said that agents were going door to door asking people for IDs. I want to ask you if you've heard anything or from the conversations that you've had in the community, if you think that discrepancy between what agencies are communicating and what they're actually doing, what impact that has on migrant communities.
Yeah, like I said, we anticipated that this will happen. That a lot of agencies will now do their job as they're supposed to do it. And it's so incredible that in this country, where we been fighting for be an example in the world of justice, it is painful and it is very incredible to me that this is happening in our neighborhoods. In my example, at Jamlock, we have seen just yesterday, there were children who were not able to get out of their houses, to get out of the apartments, because these agencies did not allow the school buses to take the kids to school. One of our attorneys, our immigration director, attorney, Jamlock, she was there outside with the client, with the mother, crying because these children were alone at home, at the apartment, and they were not allowed to go to school.
Right.
So what's this? This is America, and we're supposed to protect children and protect everyone who deserves to be here, and I'm not saying that, they're not criminals outside, but these children are not, and we're supposed to protect them.
Yeah. Do you think then that some of this, not specific targeting, this going door to door, this is causing maybe groups of immigrants who shouldn't be afraid to be afraid?
Well, I think that at this point, everybody should be not afraid, but be in the state of mind that they need to be informed of what their rights are. We at Jamlock, we were so passionate about informing the community about what the rights are, and we know that this type of rights, this type of protections were going to be violated. My advice to the community and to our clients is to stay informed, protect your family, protect your assets, and try to fight for your case. Every case is different. So people have rights, and we are there for them. So hopefully we can continue to do our job.
Absolutely. Is there anything else, Marlon, that I missed that you want to highlight?
I think it's important, Antonia, to also inform that you need to report crime. I know there's a lot of families that are very afraid to report crime. Domestic violence in our community is at a high risk, it's a high point. So a lot of victims, a lot of people who are suffering from domestic violence, they don't want to report it because they are afraid they're going to get detained. They are afraid that the children will take them away. And that's also so important, that not only these people are at risk, they feel trapped, and we need to do something about this. Also, to not be afraid of speak up.
And is there anything that any citizens or people who may not be from the migrant community can do to help these communities? Like, what are they needing? What have they been saying that their areas of needs are?
Yeah. Well, I think that for a lot of people who are listening and who want to do something and support our community, there are certain things that the people can do. First, volunteer at any nonprofit organization who's doing the job. These nonprofits are very equipped, they have the knowledge, they have the resources, but they need a lot of volunteers and they need a lot of help. Donate. If you want to donate to an organization who's representing people who are out there informing of Know Your Rights presentations, how to prepare, a action plan, be there. We need people to also help us as an organization. So I would love to see more people get engaged and to learn about what's going on, because being informed can give everybody the tools to make an action in their own neighborhoods, which is
Absolutely.
So important.
Absolutely. Marlene, muchísimas gracias.
Gracias a ti.
If you're thinking all of that booing has something to do with the girl singing, you would all be wrong. All of that noise came from Canadian hockey fans who wanted to show their disapproval over the 25% tariffs that Donald Trump announced he would be placing on goods from Canada. Just hours after Trump's order, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that he would match Trump's actions by slapping a 25% tax on American goods. Mexico is also supposed to face a 25% tax. But just before the tariffs were set to go into effect, Trump agreed to a 30-day pause after both countries agreed to bolster security at the border. A 10% tariff on Chinese goods did go through, though, and in response, China has put a 15% tariff on some American goods. Now, the idea of tariffs have dominated the headlines, but not everyone knows exactly what a tariff is. Now, simply put, a tariff is a tax on goods coming from another country. They are typically structured as a percentage of the value of the import and can vary based on where the goods are coming from and what the products are. As for who pays the tariffs, that's the domestic business that imports the goods. They then typically pass on the charge to the consumers by raising the price of certain products. That's contrary to what President Trump has claimed, that exporting nations foot the bill. The actual transaction happens at the 328 points of entry into the U.S., designated by Customs and Border Protections. A tariff could hurt the targeted country, though. Economists say the importing businesses may choose to spend more to bring goods from one country versus another, hurting that country's economy. And last week, UC Health and Denver Health announced that they are no longer offering certain types of gender-affirming care to people under the age of 19. They made that decision after Trump signed an executive order threatening to pull funding from health agencies providing gender-affirming surgeries or hormone therapy. Denver Health says it will continue to offer services like behavioral counseling and transgender voice therapy. Both will also continue to offer gender-affirming care for people over 19, but some are concerned that may also come under threat.
What does this say for the rest of us as adults and such? When does that become targeted? Because it starts out in these incremental phases, right?
And on Wednesday, Trump signed an executive order crafted to ban trans athletes from women's sports. This is how his press secretary described the order.
The president will be signing an executive order keeping men out of women's sports to defend the safety of athletes, protect competitive integrity, and uphold the promise of Title IX.
Now, this allows federal agencies to ensure that federally funded institutions abide by Title IX in alignment with the Trump administration's interpretation of sex as the gender someone was assigned at birth. The order will reportedly ban anyone assigned male at birth from competing in women's sports. Reports say Trump's administration plans to investigate schools or athletes that disobey his order. LGBTQ+ groups called the move a, quote, blanket ban that could lead to more discrimination and make children's lives more difficult. And some of Trump's other executive orders target federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and reverse former pushes to make DEI a priority for federal contractors and entities that receive grants. Now, since those moves, several major corporations have rolled back their DEI initiatives like Target, Walmart, Meta, and Amazon, sparking controversy. I sat down with Dr. Tracy Sitzman, a workforce development scholar and professor at CU Denver, to talk about the impacts of these rollbacks. She said that one consequence could be lower employee morale for staff who cared about their company's efforts towards inclusion. She also emphasized that broader impacts to practices and productivity depends on why they were implemented in the first place.
In America, the way that we have been so successful, our competitive advantage has been our employees innovating.
Right.
And I think we're setting up a system now where we're going to see less innovation, less labor productivity. And in fact, what our data shows is that when organizations are not authentic in their approach to diversity and inclusion, we see labor productivity tanks, right? We're marginalizing some of our workers. We can't get along. We can't work together. And therefore, as a collective, we produce a lot less.
So you're saying that from what we've seen, companies that employ these DEI initiatives, these programs, these incentives, we're seeing more productivity come out of them, whereas if they hadn't, they
The
would
beauty is in the details. It's not that if you implement something and you're inauthentic, that you're going to get a boost, right?
I see what you're saying. So
If I want my employees to produce, I need to be authentic in my approach. Let me just give you an example. Okay, so one of the most pervasive diversity initiatives that we have implemented is diversity training. So if I implement diversity training and it teaches people how to work together and it empowers you to make a workforce more diverse and inclusive, it works. It results in greater representation in management positions and it results in a more inclusive workplace. Yet the vast majority of organizations are implementing it with a legal undertone. So we get together in diversity training and we teach you just how far your behavior can go before you cross the legal boundaries. And these types of training programs actually undermine our ability to attain diverse representation, and they result in fewer women, fewer Black employees in managerial roles in organizations. The funny thing is we know how to get a lot of this right. The question is whether we're trying to do it.
I see what you're saying, and I think that's really interesting because if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that the impact of these DEI programs and initiatives depends a lot on how they're actually implemented and the intention behind it. And to get to the correct implementation, so to speak, we would need even more of these DEI kind of practices and learning from the past. And so how do you envision like a future for corporations who still want to see like a more equitable future with these DEI rollbacks? Like, how are we going to get to learn about what we're doing wrong and implement these, whatever it is that we learn, so we can get to that equitable future? What's next for companies like that?
Well, on one hand, what we need is more science behind it. So the first time that Donald Trump took office, he blocked researchers having access to EEOC data. So all companies with over 100 employees release a report every year telling us the representation of women and racial minorities at different levels in the organizational hierarchy. And this is invaluable, right? So when we have the data, researchers have established that labor productivity is greatest if we have diverse representation at both the higher and the lower levels in the hierarchy, right? So you can't just have a few token employees at the top or the bottom. You need people to be represented throughout.
Right.
And it's only by having access to this data that researchers can deduce what's working and what firms are making progress. Now the problem is, so the first time Donald Trump took office, he blocked researchers having access to the data. It took to the final year of Biden's administration in order to open up that data access. And for researchers who are applying for it, we're in that process, but we need to maintain open data access if we're going to be able to figure out the best approach to being successful in this domain.
Right. Is this political kind of pressure to some of these corporations to roll these DEI initiatives back? Is that another roadblock? How might they adapt to that? Is it changing the language? Is it speaking to their employees and being like, hey, trust us, we want an equitable future for you. We want to kind of be inclusive and have diversity in our workplaces, just not using DEI? Is that what the future of of this world is now?
It's so muddy, right? So the CEOs who stepped up and they took a stance on this. So 81% of Fortune 500 companies put a diversity and inclusion statement on their website, right? Mm-hmm. And now you can't simply, how are employees supposed to know which employers were authentic in it and which were inauthentic? And for those employees that actually got involved in their firm's approach to diversity and inclusion, they're well aware of whether their firm was authentic. At this point, it's a mess, right? We need to figure out how to make sure people feel like their voices are heard and feel like they have a say in the workplace in order for us to have a competitive advantage and for our employees to remain innovative and successful.
That makes sense. Is there anything else that you want to add on the matter that I didn't touch on? Anything that you feel passionate about that you want to highlight?
No, I think we need to realize that we have a diverse America, right? It is in nobody's best interest to politicize our ability to get along and to work together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And as many federal agencies work to comply with President Trump's executive actions targeting DEI programs, NBC News obtained memos and emails showing the changes to several agencies regarding employee resource groups and the celebration of cultural awareness events. Just this week, the Defense Intelligence Agency ordered a pause on all events related to MLK Day, Juneteenth, Pride Month, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and even Black History Month, which runs through February. But this doesn't stop us from celebrating the Black community and recognizing the crucial contributions they've made and continue to make for this country. Now, some people just have that special vibe. You can't help but want to be around them, and they just make you feel good. People like Treyasha Decker, a musician, Miss Black Colorado, and a mentor to students at the high school where she graduated from in 2019.
It's a vibe, it's a vibe. It's a vibe, it's a vibe. Yeah, it's a vibe, it's a vibe.
Manual High School is putting out some good vibes. From a small room off the library called the Rap Lab.
Everybody's in their flow right now.
I just got me a new stylist.
It's a safe home for the kids to come and be creative and express themselves in many different ways.
On this day, alum Treyasha Decker is simply here to guide.
When she comes in, she brings in the vibes, I'd say. She helps us find our flow.
Where to go and no place to go home.
I love this beat. No, it's a vibe.
She also brings back memories.
It's super nostalgic. Like every time when I walk into the hallways, I just want to cry because I actually started my music career here.
She is remembered for many things at Manual.
Miss Garth, hi.
Just like you, oh, like the queen.
I know, I'm tearing up.
Recently, she's added another feather to her cap.
What are they talking about?
My life. And this opportunity to come back and be able to be a vessel and allow God to use me. So this is amazing.
Amazing. A former student giving back to her community, to her school, and to these kids, all while making an effort to be a first.
In August, we have nationals coming up, so I'll be competing for Miss Black USA. And so if I win that, not only would I be Miss Black Colorado, my state, but I'll be the entire United States. So it'll be beautiful.
No one in this room seems fazed by the sash and the crown.
How y'all feel about that beat?
But they do notice her smile.
That's the bridge. Y'all sound good.
Biggest takeaway, no matter how long it takes, we'll be able to find our flow. And always come in with smiles.
However you feel is temporary. It's not gonna be forever. So my mom has always told me, have a smile on your face. Know that tomorrow is a different day. It's a vibe, it's a vibe. Hey, that was good. Y'all like that?
All right, and big shout out to photojournalist Tom Cole for that story. That was great. Right now, billions of people across the world are celebrating Lunar New Year. It is the most celebrated holiday among Asian countries. It begins on the first new moon of the lunar calendar and ends 15 days later on the first full moon. And this year, the holiday started on January 29th and will end on February 12th. 2025 is the year of the snake, and to celebrate, communities around the U.S. organize parades, carnivals, and festivities featuring lion and dragon dances, fireworks, traditional food, and cultural performances. In 2023, Colorado became the second state in the country to recognize Lunar New Year as an official observed holiday. That designation is due to the work of several advocates, including Navang Sandoval.
I'm emotional about the fact that I had the opportunity to contribute in that way. That is something not only meaningful to me as a Vietnamese refugee, but also as an Asian woman. I believe that if you embrace who you are and you embrace your origins and your culture and everything that comes along with it, it will become something much bigger than the one person.
Sandoval hopes that as more people learn about the holiday, it also spurs more inclusivity.
I want it to be something that people have a curiosity about and asking us questions like, well, what does the year of the snake mean? Why the long noodles? I want that curiosity to not only spark people's interest, but I want it to open their hearts. This is the most celebrated holiday amongst Asian countries, at least 9 of them across the world and over 2 billion people.
All right, and award season is upon us. The 67th Grammy Awards came and went, spotlighting the music industry's best. Though I could stand here and chat your ear off about the ceremony, I'm not allowed to, and I also don't want to bore you. So I'll give you the rundown of the quote-unquote Big Four categories and share some notable moments. Kendrick Lamar won both the Record of the Year and Song of the Year categories for his song Not Like Us, a diss track that was a big part of his infamous feud with Drake, and just a really, really good song. He took home 5 Grammys total. As for the Album of the Year category, Miss Beyonce Giselle Knowles brought home the hardware for her album Cowboy Carter. Her album also won Country Album of the Year, making her the first Black woman to ever win this category in a genre the Black community birthed. In her Album of the Year acceptance speech, Beyonce dedicated the award to Linda Martell, a collaborator and a real trailblazer for Black female country artists. Beyonce won 3 Grammys total. And finally, Chappell Roan, one of my favorites, won Best New Artists. Chappell used her acceptance speech to demand the industry give livable wages and healthcare to artists, especially those who are up and coming. This is the singer's first Golden Gramophone, and if you ask me, she's going to earn many more. And there were many other notable moments. Some are good and some are, well, bad. Like when host Trevor Noah called Shakira, quote, the greatest thing out of Colombia that isn't a Class A felony. Now that was not cool. But she went on to win Best Latin Pop Album and gave one of my favorite speeches of the night.
I want to dedicate this award to all my immigrant brothers and sisters in this country. You're loved, you're worth it, and I will always fight with you. And to all of those women who work really hard every day to provide for their families, you are the true she-wolves.
Others who used the Grammy stage to speak on their beliefs include Global Impact Award winner Alicia Keys, who stressed the importance of embracing diversity and asked for more empathy and compassion. And rapper Doechii gave what was, in my opinion, the best speech of the night in accepting the Best Rap Album Award.
I know that there is some Black girl out there, so many Black women out there that are watching me right now, and I want to tell you, you can do it. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Don't allow anybody to project any stereotypes on you that tell you that you can't be here, that you're too dark, or that you're not smart enough, or that you're too dramatic, or you're too loud. You are exactly who you need to be right where you are, and I am a testimony.
Now let's hop into our good news of the week. Denver kicked off Black History Month by celebrating those who have made a positive impact in the community. The Denver Public Library started the Juanita Gray Community Service Awards 36 years ago to honor the contributions of people of Black or African descent, and this year was no different, despite some community leaders' concerns about recent changes in the country. Janet Damon, one of this year's winners, highlighted the importance of continuing to cheer on the good no matter what.
I think we'll find our North Star, and as long as we stay on track and focused on celebrating and seeing our community, I think we'll be in the right space.
And the Butterfly Pavilion and the Mexican government announced a groundbreaking project in January. The project is to restore monarch butterfly wintering grounds in Mexico's Butterfly Biosphere Reserve. The grant from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums will plant 100,000 native Oyamel fir trees. The trees will offer a vital lifeline to the monarchs, whose populations have declined by 80% over the last 30 years. The butterflies are facing threats from climate change, habitat loss, and deforestation, so the goal is to restore habitats to help the future of the species. And a school in Colorado is teaching its students an important lesson about giving back. The Colorado Springs School is partnering with Charity Water to help drill a new well for the African country of Malawi. The school says it expects the new well to positively impact hundreds of people. The act of service is also inspiring students to find more ways to help, with one student saying that she wants to hold a craft day in her driveway to raise more money for water delivery efforts. Thank you so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation right here on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.